What up? What up? What up, you two? We are live. We are live. We are back in the building. And shout outs to you. As you can see, I got a special guest with me today. What up, Vida? Good to have you in the building. Shout out to you. Introduce yourself, please.
Hello, everyone. My name is Vida Marie, and I am so excited to be on here to talk about the wonderful topics tonight.
I'm looking forward to it as well. So this is going to be a good night, y'all. Do me a favor. As you come in the door, make sure you hit the like button, And also, Vida, can you tell my people on my side how they can find you? And make sure y'all go over there and follow her channel, please. So let the audience know what you got going on.
Yeah, so I'm on two platforms currently. So Facebook is Simple Vida Marie, which is my name on here. And then on Instagram, it's Vida Marie 1995. Nice and simple. Yep.
Right, right. So please do me a favor and go and find her. I'm going to, I did put her link in the description as well. So, you can actually just go in the description, follow her Instagram, please. And also on Facebook, she's doing really good over there and she's teaching y'all brothers some game. I'm talking about some real game. So, y'all really want to get the insides of how how a feminine woman thinks. Follow her, please. So thank you for joining me today. And those of you that don't know what she's about and why I asked her to join me today was one, so we could talk about the issues that's happening in our community. I truly believe it's a problem, and I want to find a way that we can resolve it. And what better to talk to than a woman with insight that can actually get to the nitty gritty of the issues that we have. She's grown her platform to over 50,000 subscribers because she talks about issues in our community, and men and women listen. So, looking forward to this. I want to play a video, and as I play it, we'll start, stop. So that way, we could just talk about these issues that's happening. Feel free to jump in at any time. I'll stop the video and we'll go from there. Also, my boy says, living la vida loca. So, so all right. I'm going to share my screen with you. Give me one sec.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see. You can't see that, right? Yes, you can.
No, I can. Mm-hmm.
All right, let's go.
Black on Black crime is as a result of underinvestment and over policing.
Yes and no.
When we're talking about violent crime, this is largely done by men. And so I have a hard time blaming under policing and underinvestment on what I fundamentally believe is a patriarchy issue, is a male violence issue, across the board, across races, across everything. Men commit violent crimes and they commit them to each other a lot of the time as well. So I can't agree with that. It's just these problems because white on white crime exists and whatever all these other crimes exist. I don't think it's fair to hone in on this. I think that this exists so we can say that Black people are more aggressive. That's why there's this conversation. But it's a male issue. It's a male violence issue. It's a patriarchy issue. So, and I think that that's not what to blame.
I also think and I would love to know if you guys agree.
So let's talk. I wanted to ask you, how do you feel about that? What do you think about what she's saying, but yet still the topic, Black on Black crime, is a result of underinvestment and over policing. How do you feel about that?
Well, for one, when we're talking about just the high incarceration rates on behalf of Black men, I think that it would be kind of unfair to say that over policing doesn't play a role in that. I think that throughout history, and I talked about this on my live as well too tonight, but throughout history, we have definitely seen how the government has been very much against the Black community, but specifically the Black man. When I talked about in my live today, I talked about the crack epidemic, right? And we now later know that the government definitely planted a lot of the drugs that we unfortunately took a huge downfall, especially the Black Family Unit. They placed those drugs in our neighborhoods, and unfortunately, we took those drugs, and then unfortunately, that's when we saw a huge spike in incarceration rates on behalf of Black men. Not to mention that, I mean, time and time again, I think that it's more prevalent now because we have internet. So before, there was a lot of shootings or a lot of killings on behalf of Black men when it had came to police officers, and we just really didn't hear about it unless we turned on the news. But now that we have internet where things can go viral and you can see things within seconds and minutes, now we are really just starting to see this phenomenon that's been going on for God knows how long of Black men being killed and targeted by white police officers for small things, to be completely honest, that they shouldn't even have been targeted for, whether it's a tail light, whatever it may be. And then obviously they're coming over. There has even been videos I've seen where the Black man has been completely honest, like, look, I have a gun, let me put my hands up, and they still were killed and shot. So I think for her to just simplify it to is just, let's take race out of it, and it's just, men on men, like men versus men, period, is just violent. I think that it would be simplifying the fact that police is definitely a huge problem, and that police have very much been targeting Black men since, the beginning of time. Like I said, the only reason why we know about it now is because of the internet.
Right. I agree with you with that. And those that don't know, this is liberals versus conservatives, by the way. So let's continue with the video. Let's see what we got.
Agree or disagree on this, but it's also a proximity issue, right? Like you said, white on white crime is a thing. We don't talk about that. You most likely will end up, unfortunately, involving yourself in crime with the people that you're around naturally. And Black communities were historically, you have to look at the history of it. They're pushed into those areas because of what? I'm actually asking because of what?
Redlining.
Right. And so,
Projects.
right, all of that. So when you're around those people all the time, that's who is going to you're going to end up committing crimes against those people. It's the same with white people. So I guess my question is, do you think that if those Black people were able to leave and kind of gentrify in a different way other communities, would they still be committing the same amount of crimes that you view that they're committing?
What you're suggesting is that the Black community is inherently violent, and
I'm not suggesting that. No, I'm not suggesting that. I'm not
please.
suggesting that.
Let me finish my actual thought.
Okay.
The Black community, when it's all together, is just going to inherently be violent, and the only way to remove the violence is to let us spread and intermix with other people. That's what I'm hearing from that
That's
statement.
not what I'm saying. I understand that's what you're hearing.
You see
but
what
that's
I'm
not
saying?
I do, but that's not what I'm saying.
Because what you're implying is that when Black people are gathered together, because of the proximity to other Black people, we commit crimes.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
What I would ask,
I feel like
what
you
I would
understand
ask
what I'm saying.
is, why are we committing crimes?
But everybody commits
we
crime.
don't
That's the
have
point
to
that I'm saying.
commit
I'm saying
crimes.
everybody commits crimes. And we're in
Yo,
proximity with each other.
so sometimes that pisses me off, right? Like when you try to have a conversation, I'm trying to get my point off. And it's usually a lot of these, I don't know which way you vote now, but it's a lot of these liberal women that be like, yo, I'm not even going to let you talk because whatever you're saying, it's not how I feel and what I feel. It's like, no, let me finish saying what I'm saying and, get your rocks off. I don't know. I can't do it. It's hard.
It's definitely something that has been going on, and it's very clear in this video for sure.
Very clear, very frustrating too, because it's like, come on, let the woman talk. But let's see if she could finish her point.
You will end up committing no crimes against.
I think from the science background of like generational trauma and like thinking about how men are not taught, going back to what you're saying, men are not taught how to regulate their emotions. And think about all the
Men
anger
are able
and
to be violent, which is a very different thing. Men don't have to regulate their emotions.
I'm
Men's
just
violence
speaking
is
from
always
my
protective.
experiences like in the mental health field of if we're not allowed to, well, anger is a secondary emotion. Underneath it is embarrassment, hurt, pain, like all of these vulnerable emotions, and men in our society are not taught how to process that. And if you take in generational trauma, all the trauma that Black men have had to go through chattel slavery. And like I said, my grandfather came back from war and he didn't get GI benefits and he has to support his family. Like, what do? It turns to anger. And the reason why there could be, and if you, again, kind of redlining, squishing all of these people and over policing, it's just, we're creating this self-fulfilling prophecy where no matter what, like there's going to be more violence in these areas because there's no, like, again, kind of going back to, we need the mental health programs, we need education programs to help uplift people so that that energy can go into art, it can go into school, it can go into all of these productive places so that we, and again, kind of, again, like if we like spread people out, you get exposed to different ways to, because I will say that,
she's talking a lot, but how do you feel about what she's saying?
So to be completely honest, I think out of everything that I've heard so far, I would definitely have to agree with her the most. And the reason why I agree with her is because I definitely am very, very big on mental health. I don't think that mental health is talked a lot about in the Black community, period. I think a lot of times we're taught in the Black community that mental health is not a thing. If you have problems, you got to keep it moving. You don't have time to cry. You don't have time to process things. Like, you just got to keep it moving. And I think that it causes a lot of issues when it comes to having to actually learn how to have self-reflection, learn how to process your emotions in a healthy manner, learn how to, if you are struggling with some type of emotion, learn how to get rid of that anger or anxiety or whatever you may have that's built within in a healthy manner, outside of sex or alcohol or drugs or weed or whatever the things that people do to try to cope, because it's really coping, because life is hard, and everyone needs to be able to cope. And I think that there's definitely a lack of education as well too, to teach people as to what is the right steps that you should take. So eating healthier, going to the gym, whatever that may be, to cope with that. And just to kind of like, this is kind of a little off topic, but kind of like tying into this point, that just kind of like reminds me when I was in high school and I had to do volunteer hours. I decided to volunteer at Planned Parenthood, and it was a lot of young Black women who were coming in there at very young ages and pregnant. Now, to me, I'm thinking to myself, I'm judging them. I'm like, what? Like, but once I start actually talking to these women, I realized it was a lack of education. None of these women knew about birth control. They barely knew about condoms. They're just having sex and not understanding that the consequences of having sex at a young age is you can get pregnant. And they're not even thinking about that. They're just enjoying the act. So I do agree with a lot of the things that she's talking about.
Right. Yeah. No, I'm actually with her on that point too. Poverty is, anytime you have poor people but that don't have, creates more crime. You're going to have a community full of degenerates, people that don't know better, and not saying it in a bad way. You just don't know. You're ignorant. And that's what happens when you lack resources. When your children, like, I remember growing up and we used to have sports, that was paid for by the schools, paid for by the cities. They took all of those stuff away. So now what do you do with a group of Black boys with nowhere to go and nothing to do? And then the parents can't afford to put them into a football, into a program. You can't afford the shoulder pads, and because a uniform itself could be about $300 to $400.
Mm-hmm.
Most parents can't afford that in America, on top of all their bills. So yeah, poverty is a major problem for crime, because you need an outlet. And boys, men, we need outlets. That's just how it goes. That's how I feel about it.
I definitely agree with you. I think that Black men definitely need outlets, and I think that unfortunately, when we think about poverty as well too, we also have to have a discussion about drugs, because unfortunately, poverty and drugs kind of go hand in hand on top of sex. If you look at it statistically, people who have the most sex, as crazy as it may sound, it's not married people, it's not this and that, it's actually people who are poor. You can look this up. They actually have the most sex, and a lot of it just has to do with lack of productivity. Because I know for myself, and I'm sure for other people who really have like goals and things that they're doing, you know, even if you're living with someone, you may not be having sex all the time, because the reality of it is that life is hitting and you got a lot to do, you know, as an
Right.
adult. But when you don't have anything to do, you typically lay around, you have sex, you unfortunately, a lot of Black men are being raised by single moms. That has to be a discussion as well too. And I tell women on my platform all the time, I don't care what you say, you cannot be a mother and a father. You cannot teach a man a boy to be a man. That's just really what it comes down to. And so we have to think about all of that when we're talking about poverty. So not having a father figure, being raised by a single mother, right? That can't give you any guidance on how to be a man. So now you're out in the street trying to figure it out for yourself, and you're looking to your peers who may not have the best example as well too. And you just see how this can obviously cause a whole bunch of generational curses. And not to mention, you know, it definitely paves the way for these young Black boys to be in juvenile detention center and then eventually lead to jail.
So, and that's real. With all the data that's out there, why do you think, why do you think it's still like women are not understanding that getting married should be the main reason to bring a child into this world?
So, I like to talk specifically about the Black community. So, if we're talking about Black women, I would say that it's a brainwash. First things first, I like to always go back to the crack epidemic, because during this time, Black men were going to jail, and Black women at that time chose the government. And I don't even fault them at that point, because they were married. You know, during this time, marriages were high in the Black community. So, I'm not going to make it seem like it wasn't. Marriages were high, and a lot of Black women were not working. The man was still very much the provider, and the woman was the domestic at home. And so obviously, when a man is gone and he's now being locked up, you like, how am I going to feed my kids? You go into survival mode, and obviously they chose the government. Now, during that time period, I can understand it. I don't understand it for today, because we're past that. But what I will say is that welfare, I tell people all the time, welfare was not made for Black people. When welfare originally had came out, it was made for white women, because the husbands were working and they wanted to have, extra benefits and things that would pretty much cushion whatever the income that the white man couldn't bring home to his wife. Not to mention that when welfare originally came out, a lot of Black people couldn't read. So that's why people need to know their history. So then once Black people started to get on welfare, that's when the government started to change the rules and say, okay, well, you can be on welfare, but you can't have a man in the household. And then we then have, Black men being dehumanized, hiding underneath beds, like, hiding in closets when the person is coming in checking the home. And it was very, very humiliating. And it was one of the I feel like the starting points of definitely breaking apart the Black family unit. Because the Black man had to hide, and he no longer could have pride. Like, everything was taken from him. So now fast forward to where we are now, that obviously is no longer the case. Black women are very much choosing now to say, the hell with men and things of that nature. Black men, why is that happening? Well, I think a large part of that again goes back to single Black moms teaching their Black daughters to hate men, teaching their Black daughters to not trust Black men. They just cause a whole bunch of trauma, issue problems, and then teaching them to pretty much go the feminist route, where it's like, just get your education, be a career woman, and forget the Black man. So Black women are now again being tricked, because now they're being invested into making a white man rich, instead of coming with a Black man, taking a little bit of money that you guys do have, working and investing and creating Black generational wealth, so that you guys can build, with one another, and don't have to be a slave to the white man. So that was pretty deep, but I think that would be like my short answer of it.
No, and listen, that is the answer for it. You asked me, when you break down what's happening, right? Like someone in the comments said, sometimes boys are being raised by weak men. A lot of that is a choice too, right? It's a choice on a lot of women that are choosing weak men. It's not to say that Black men, I think overall, when a black man is a father, and I'm talking about an active father, we do a damn good job, right? Like we're there, we're raising our daughters to become men. I mean, our daughters to pick the right men, I should say.
Mhm.
We're raising our sons to be men, active, productive, and the data shows that black men are good fathers overall. I do see a subset of women that choose the futures of the game. They choose the degenerate men to make children with. Why? Because he looks good, because he drives a nice car, because he got money. These ridiculous things that that the man's not going to be there, but you're still choosing because it's a choice to have that man's child and replicate him for what? So yeah, we tend to keep ourselves in the cycle, the perpetual state of a subset of the black community that will always be at the bottom.
Agreed. I definitely agree. And even more so than that, like I say, a lot of times black women think that I'm very harsh on my platform, but I'm just being completely honest. First of all, the reason why we have a lot of weak black men, again, it goes back to the single black mom raising black men. And unfortunately, like I said, a lot of black women, because unfortunately we have learned to be masculine, because we're taught to be masculine. Because again, if we're taught that we don't need a man for anything, obviously we have to replace the man and be masculine, and we no longer can be in our feminine energy or be, feminine. So with that being said, when they're raising these men, they don't even think that they even need to include the father. Not to mention that, if we can be completely honest, there are definitely, like you say, statistically, black men or black fathers are the most involved out of all the races. That's statistically proven, involved in their child's life. So it shows that black men very much want to be active parents. But when you talk to a lot of black men, and I do, because I do consultations, as I told you, a lot of black men are telling me that the mother is bitter because he may not necessarily want her because of her ways, and she's choosing to keep the child from him. He has to fight in court to try to see his child. She's using the child as a pawn, child support. You now bring the white man into the household, which is then causing a whole bunch of division. And that's the reason why a lot of these black men are growing up as soft, because the woman is pretty much saying, you're not going to see your child because I want to get back at you. You know what I'm saying? And it's causing a this group of men that's coming up that's becoming very feminine. Why? Because they, even though the black single mom may act as if she's masculine, she's still a woman, she's still emotional. So she's having tantrums, she's emotional, she's under distress. Her son is seeing this, thinking that this is the correct way. He doesn't have a man in the household to balance that, to show that that's not how you're supposed to act, and then he's taking on her ways. And the sad part about it is, all it does is create the generational curse, and not to mention that it also causes the black boy, unfortunately, to have a higher chance of going to jail, because we already know, if you go out in the streets as a black man and you can't control your emotions, you all over the place, you just can't regulate yourself, you're going to jail.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's real. That's real, and there's a lot of emotional men for that specific reason. I sent you something before we even started the live on Instagram. I want to play that real quick. Let me share this tab. And hold on, let me see. All right, I'm gonna share this tab real quick.
I was at work and his mother called me and told me that I needed to get to the hospital because he wasn't breathing. I didn't know what happened. It was one of the hardest days of my life. Just seeing my son laying up in there with that food in his mouth.
A neighbor's Ring doorbell camera captured the entire incident. Police say Kyrie and his mother, 38-year-old Anika Connor, became involved in an argument over Kyrie's cell phone.
Where is my phone?
They say Connor then left her house on Breck Street, got into her car, and began backing out of the driveway when Kyrie ran out of the house and jumped onto the vehicle. Video goes on to show Connor accelerating forward at a high rate of speed and Kyrie falling off the vehicle onto the pavement.
It was just a lot. It was a lot of injuries, you know what I'm saying? And after reading over all of them and sitting in the hospital for a month just watching him, I realized he wasn't coming back from none of that stuff.
On November 7th, Kyrie was removed from life support and his organs were donated. On Tuesday, Connor was arrested and charged with manslaughter, reckless endangerment, and endangering the welfare of a child.
She deserved to be where she at. And that video showed it all.
So I wanted to highlight that for a reason, because the problem was, for me, of course, it's all sad, right? You have a mother that pretty much, got into an altercation with her son, just to recap, and basically ran her child over because he ran after her and jumped on the hood of the car for a phone. Unfortunately, these sad situations happen. But the problem was the comments, and a lot of the women in the comments blamed the father. If you go through the comment section, it's small here, and sometimes I'll be having an issue with zooming. But pretty much, there's women saying, this top woman right here, she says she does not deserve to be where she is. The audacity of the father to make those comments. He says, were you present every day, sir, to deal with his temperament? Did you endure the abuse from your child? Did you fail your son? Because why is it he feel comfortable enough to jump on the mother's moving car? And it's sad because she wasn't the only one in the comments saying this. It's a plethora of comments that look to blame the man for what the mother did, even to say that he said, I was at work. So from what it sounds like was he lived there. But it seems like even when a father does what he has to do and holds the mother accountable for we both could, I guess, agree that what happened there was like horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Why are you blaming the father? What do you like? What do you think goes on? Because I'm not a woman. I can't understand why. What do you think goes on with these women and why they can't take that type of accountability?
Well, I talk a lot about this on my platform. One of the reasons why I blew up is that modern women nowadays, they just lack holding themselves accountable. This has been a phenomenon that has been going on for a very, very, very long time, just in general. But I think that when it comes to the Black community, specifically talking about Black women, I definitely feel like it stems from a form of entitlement. And the reason why I say entitlement is because unfortunately, Black women are being raised by their Black mothers to think that the world revolves around them. And the world just doesn't revolve around you. That's just the reality of it. But they're being taught that they're the prize. They're the prize. The man is not the prize. They're being taught that you're better than the man. They're being taught that a man should be lucky to even talk to you. A man should be lucky to even spend money on you. A man should be lucky if you even give him the time of day. And so, unfortunately, it is causing this, epidemic of women that we pretty much see where they have literally no accountability. They don't feel like they have to be held accountable for anything. They're always going to blame the man for everything because, again, in their mind, they're like, the man is to blame. He should have been in the household. Where was he at? Never mind the fact that he was probably at work.
He said it.
That was the
exactly.
first
thing he said, I'm at work.
making an honest living for the household, which a man is supposed to do, right? But they're still going to point the finger at the man because, again, it's a form of entitlement. It's a form of lack of accountability. Women don't want to look in the mirror. And I talk about it all the time, which I talked about in my live video, that Black women are the least likely to get married. That's just the reality out of all the other races. Even though marriage is declining across the board in every race, Black women are the least likely. Why? Because entitlement. Why? Because we think we're better than men. Why? Because we don't even want to learn what a man wants, necessarily needs, nor do we want to cater to a man. We're very, very invested in just trying to take whatever we can. And if a man is asking us to pour back into him, it's an absolutely no. Because why should I? You should just be lucky to sleep with me. You should be lucky I'm giving you the time of the day. And that's why we're not, unfortunately, Black women are not getting married.
Right. And it's sad. It's sad because, I think we're better together. And matter of fact, I can't even sit here and say I think we're better together. I know we're better together, and like those of you who do know me know that I've been married for a while, and I really found myself inspired when I found my wife. So yeah, like I believe as a Black woman, a lot of women need to work on making themselves desirable. You know what I'm saying? Make themselves become what the man would want in order for him to marry her. And then you'll have better results in raising these children. But the problem is like you said, that accountability of, I like what you said. You said that they feel as if a man is lucky to be with them.
Yeah.
That's when I hear that sounds so crazy to me. I don't like that, the prize conversation. My mindset is, if we figure this out, there's benefits, because the prize is the children. Raising your children should be the ultimate prize, and to becoming productive, well-to-do human beings. That's the prize of having a good marriage. So to separate it and say, well, I'm better than you and you need me and I don't need you, it's crazy to me. Like that could never sit well with me. So, but I do believe you though, because I see it too. I hear it too on the internet, and not even on the internet. Like I do panels on this channel, and even on the panel, sometimes I'll have women that'll sit there and literally say that. And I'm looking at them like, really? Really?
This is real.
Right. It's crazy, you know what I'm saying? But let's get a little bit more of this topic here, and let's see what we could gather from what these ladies got to say. Shout out to everybody that's in the building. Do me a favor, hit the like button if you guys are in the building currently, and make sure you share the content. Get it over to your people. Tell them GMT and Vida is live. Let's get a little bit more into this topic.
If you are not taught how to do things, and you are kind of stuck in this learned helplessness of, which I don't know if anyone will take that the wrong way, but it's just a term of like, you feel like there's no, like, kind of like the two-party system of like, if you say there's no way that I'm going to get out of this, that is a mental health issue of saying like, hey, there's another way to express anger. There's another way to process this other than picking up a gun and shooting at each other.
So, and correct me if I'm wrong, but it kind of sounds like you're giving these people who commit crimes an excuse for because whatever trauma that they've been through.
No,
I can say I'm someone who's going through grief and trauma right now. My mom suddenly died 3 weeks ago, and I every single day, thank you, I go through every stage of grief multiple times a day. It is the most I can't cuss on here, but you know what I'm trying to say. And I still have to continue on going through my life. Our bills need to be paid. Me, my husband, I have to be there for him. I have to go through life. I don't get to just go, commit crime because I've been through trauma.
Do you have the support in place? Like, what is your support?
I mean, I have my husband, and we can discuss that. But even if I didn't, that's still not an excuse to go and commit crime to harm people.
And it's no other option. If you have no idea what to do.
I don't agree.
Like, I will say, just from working with people and knowing, like, if you add in the mental health aspect of like, we have echelon of needs. At the bottom is need for safety. What you guys are talking about is all the way up here. You can look it up, Maslow's hierarchy of needs. It's self-actualization of like knowing what to do. That's all the way up here. We're talking about feeding yourself and all that kind of stuff.
So why did they go from I have no idea what to do to I'm going to go murder someone, or I'm going to go steal someone, or I'm going to go steal a car?
So I think when you bring up
I don't know. It's crazy because in this specific topic, right? Myself personally, I'm listening to the liberal sister, right? And I understand her, but I do still agree with the conservative woman because like it doesn't give you the excuse, but understanding that, I think what a lot of people don't understand is when you grow up in a situation where it's crime and violence all around you, you tend to think it's okay. You tend to think like, if I hit you, that's just because you made me mad. And what I've been hearing lately is a lot of people saying, especially when it pertains to women, they'll say things like, well, you can't control a person's actions if you make them mad. It doesn't give you the right to hit me now, but at the same time, if all you know is violence, right? So it's almost like two things can be true at the same time. If all you know is violence, then how do you react when you get upset with your emotions? You tend to just be violent and you think it's okay, right? So I don't know. I'm kind of torn. How do you feel about that?
To be completely honest, I can kind of see how you would be torn as well too. I think the liberal sister was really just pretty much just talking about the environment, right? So I think that people need to realize that the environment plays a huge role on the decisions that people make on their day-to-day life, right? So if you was to take let's just say, a black brother who's in, a poverty stricken area in the projects with violence and drugs and all that other stuff, and you would take him out of his, neighborhood. Let's just say he's been there for 10 years, and then you would put him in a white suburban neighborhood where there's none of that a lot of times, right? You would be surprised that if you had a conversation with him, like, which one do you like better? You would be surprised to hear him say, well, honestly, I feel misplaced. Like, I'm so used to this, I have to get used to what's new over here because I'm used to the shooting. I'm used to going to the bathroom at night and hearing people shoot each other. I'm used to coming outside and seeing paraphernalia needles on the ground. I'm used to seeing prostitutes and hookers going up and down the street and selling their bodies. Like, this is what I'm used to seeing. And I don't think that people realize environment does play a very, very huge part in why people make the decisions that they make. And I think that the liberal sister was just trying to bring light to that and also helping, like, trying to help the conservative woman understand that, if sometimes people are just not shooting for no reason. Sometimes somebody might kill somebody because they have something that they want, because they think that that's the best way to go about it. Or it could be, I'm hungry and, my mom has been giving me oodles and noodles every day because she's selling the food stamps. So I'm going to go and beat somebody up for some food. Like, sometimes it could be for survival tactics. It doesn't always have to just be, I'm just going to go out and shoot somebody because I'm mad. And I think that we definitely have to take a look at the full picture because every circumstance is different before we just start just saying that, that this is just unacceptable. You know what I'm saying? Like, we have to really look at it on a circumstances basis.
I agree. I agree. Yeah. So it sounds like you're kind of with me with that. Like, you're in between. Like, you understand where the liberal system was coming from. I do understand that what things don't give you the right, but I do feel as if a lot of people that say that don't understand or haven't really been around or in situations where violence is a way of life. And it's a sad thing, right? But like, I don't think it's a new thing either. I think in human society, in every culture, of course, in some cultures there's more violence than others, but in every culture there's violence, right? And and with that even being said, in the more impoverished areas, it's even more violent in every culture. You could go to China. There's all types of Chinese gangs and all that in their impoverished areas. It's the same thing when you go, in white communities. It's the same thing, the trailer parks and all that. Crime is crime because people don't have, and they usually want what you have.
Absolutely. And I also feel like I want to highlight this point as well too. First of all, we know that we live in the U.S. and where, Black people are the minority. I do think that pretty soon that will be changing, especially because, there's a lot of mixing, so we are becoming a melting pot. But as of where it stands now, Black people are still the minority and white people are still the majority. So with that being said, white people are actually doing way more crime than Black people. But because the media is, biased and they want to project Black people as animals, which they've been doing since the beginning of time. So that shouldn't be surprising anyway. They want to project people, Black people as animals. So they're always showing our crime, and they'll ignore the crimes that are happening amongst white people because they want it to seem like it's just Black people, it's just Black people. But in reality, if we think from a logical standpoint, it has to be more crime with white people because they're the majority and we're the minority. So I just want to first point that out as well too. Media plays a huge part in the way that Black people are depicted, and a lot of times we're depicted as animals. A lot of times we're depicted as people that are unintelligent, don't have any type of sense, and that's just not the reality for everyone in the Black community. So pretty much I just say all that to say that we have to definitely look at the full picture. We have to take a look at media. We have to realize that media are biased. And that's why I say that just as a Black community, we have to stay woke and realize that there's so much, honestly, power in the Black family structure. And it definitely needs to come back because when a Black man and woman are on the same page, they have the same goals, they're aligned. It's a very, very powerful force. And if there were more Black couples that were getting together and married and were really aligned with one another and we could fix this issue that we're seeing, to be completely honest, we could probably very much have just as much generational wealth as white people or take more of it, and they would be very threatened, to be completely honest. They're not really threatened now because we can't get the Black family unit together.
Right. We got the largest spending power in the United States. We spend trillions of dollars just in consumer debt alone. So imagine if we learn financial literacy. Imagine if we put fathers and mothers together. Yeah, you're 100% right. Like all of that, all of what we're going through now will change. Won't change overnight, but eventually we'll see a 10% difference. And if you ask me, 10% is huge to see a difference.
Very.
What I look at too, and what you said about media, another thing that I see is, because I try my best to keep my eyes open to all media, white media, Black media, social media. The problem too is with social media, a lot of us are recording the crimes that we're doing too. So what's the new term that you'll see white people say under the comments? The usual suspects. That's the new thing. Anytime they see Black people doing something, the usual suspects. No crap, they're Black, they're gonna commit crimes. That's another thing. We need to teach our young, put your phones down. Listen, if you're gonna fight, you're gonna fight. It is what it is. Put your phone down. Not everything needs to be recorded. All you're doing is creating more of a stigma on Black people that's making us constantly look like, because it's all over the internet. And essentially it's not saying white people don't, like you said, they commit crimes, they do all the same stuff, but some of them do it and they phones is down. They just doing what they doing. They fighting, they shooting each other, they doing all the crap. But their phones is down. Us, everything gotta be recorded.
Mm-hmm.
So we're creating this nasty. We're not even creating. It was created. We're perpetuating this nasty buzz that Black people are at the bottom. Like we're savages and we're criminals, and we do all the degenerate stuff. So, I agree with you with that 1,000%.
Mm-hmm.
1,000%. So let's get a little bit of more of this before we wrap it up.
Trauma. I think people can experience trauma on a number of levels.
Oh,
I
it's
think
not even
an
on. I'm
insult
tripping.
to the intellectual intelligence, the emotional intelligence of the Black community to say that you are going through XYZ, so that must be the reason that you're killing people or robbing people, or and that's fair, but I think the Black community is smart enough to know what is right and what is wrong, and that killing people is not the answer. I don't think that murder is necessarily a result of only generational. I think fatherlessness is a big part of the generational trauma that exists in the Black
What do we blame
community.
for that?
And Obama
for
spoke about that
fatherlessness?
as well. I know you
Welfare?
guys mentioned
No,
Obama.
I think we blame men who have kids and then abandon them.
Oh, well,
I think that's
Oh
I
my
love that.
God. Hold on. I gotta stop there real quick. So instantly it goes right back to the men for them, right? And that's where I have a problem when it comes to the liberal side now, because it's like, well, the first thing you're gonna say is men abandon children. There's so many cases where the mother is alienating the child. I literally,
Yes.
in real time, real life, had conversations with women that tell me straight up, if he doesn't do what I want and as I want him to do it, he's not going to see his son or his daughter.
Mm-hmm.
It's almost like the control. But and I don't have the numbers on how many cases that happened, how many times that happens, but we all know there's another two. Women are choosing, like we said before, the bottom of the barrel to make children with. So when you choose those bottom barrel men, you get bottom barrel results. And then now the good guys, the ones that want to be there, you make it hard for the ones that want to be there. Right. Sometimes the man might not want to be with you because of how you act. And then all of a sudden he's a bad father. There's so many variables to this. So to put it on men don't want to be there for their children is not true at all. How do you feel about that?
Well, you said a lot. So just through my experiences, I would say with dating, it's very, very unfortunate because you'll run into Black men and they are pretty much being traumatized by a lot of Black women, unfortunately. And the reason being is because they, first of all, I first want to say there's definitely a lot of high value Black men. I first want to go there because I feel like there's the stigma that all Black men are bottom of the barrel. That's so not true. I'm around successful Black educated men that's doing the damn thing every single day. So that I just want to put that out there. That's not true. Now that that's kind of out there, because I do like to always uplift Black men, I want to secondly say that unfortunately, when it comes to the dating market, Black men, unfortunately, that want to be with Black women, they make it incredibly hard. And a lot of these Black women are not trained to be wives. They don't know how to be a wife. They're very, very disrespectful. They're very manipulative. And what I've also found with Black women too is that there's a trend of them using sex to get what they want. So they have been taught that if you just open your legs or if you have sex, then you can somehow control a man. And what's happening is that Black men are waking up and they're not being controlled by sex anymore, because if they are at a place in their life where they want to get married, you cannot control this man by sex. It may last for a little bit. And so then what winds up happening is that it just creates more trauma because a lot of these Black women already have children, because let's be real, I mean, most children in Black communities are being born outside of wedlock. So the likelihood of a man even running into a Black woman that doesn't have children at a certain age is damn near rare as ever, right? So you're dealing with a Black single mom that already probably has trauma from just whatever happened with the baby father, whatever that may have been, didn't get the healing or, therapy, didn't heal or whatever. Then she's bringing that trauma into this situation. She's been dogged out by a whole bunch of men, and really dogged out because of her actions. No man wants her because once they realize that she's a chameleon, and if you don't know what a chameleon is pretty much a woman who pretends to be a good woman, knowing that she really is not a good woman at all. Once he realized that she's a chameleon in a relationship, he's not marrying her. He's going to go out and try to find something that's better because he ultimately wants a wife. Then she leaves him. She starts acting crazy. She's upset. Now we hear the narratives of Black men ain't ish and they don't marry No, they don't marry Black women like you. They don't marry Black women who are entitled, who have attitudes, who don't want to cater to a man, who are very manipulative, who think that even though the man has told you what he wants and you refuse to do it, as long as I give him some sex, then he's going to be okay. And when Black men are waking up and saying, look, like, your sex is not doing it. Like, this is what I want. I'm standing firm on this. Now there's attitudes. Now the woman is more upset and, and has more trauma because she's trying to figure out why she's not being chosen when it really has to do with her. So I say all that to say that was kind of like a mouthful, but I say all that to say that this is the cycle that I'm seeing and why a lot of Black men, unfortunately, are just choosing not to marry and just be single because it's becoming a headache.
Do you think that Black men are getting over the fact that women are trying to use their bodies as a means to get their way? Or do you think it's, put like this, do you think it's the majority of Black men that are getting over it? Or do you still see a lot of, like, I would say simps, the dudes that's like, yo, listen, whatever women say, I'm gonna do it just to lay with them, but they don't really care about them. They don't really want nothing from them but that. Do you think men are waking up overall, or how do you feel about that?
To be completely honest, and like I said, I do male consultation. I talk to men a lot. I think men are just waking up. They're starting to realize that I am just not going to give my all to somebody that's going to give me crumbs. That's just really what it comes down to. I'm not going to give my all to a woman that is putting me down. And unfortunately, one of the things that I found as being a woman, and a lot of men have told me this as well too, that women very much have a superpower. And if you are at a place in your femininity where a man can feel vulnerable enough to talk to you about things he's going through, his problems, he feels comfortable enough and he has a safe space with you, that's when women that can do that, that's when they're valued enough to be married. Because ultimately, when a man gets in his bed every night, he wants to make sure that the woman that he's with is a safe space. Unfortunately, a lot of Black women are not taught to be safe spaces. They're just taught to take whatever you can from a man, get married, try to take half, whatever. It's always a finesse. And that's not a safe place. So now that men are waking up and realizing, like, dang, I want a Black woman, but they're not raised to be wives and they're not a safe space. Why would I settle for that all my life? I might as well be single by myself or go choose to marry another race or choose to marry elsewhere because I don't feel safe. And I wish that Black women would realize that the reason why a lot of Black men are not getting married because they don't feel safe by their own kind. And it's sad.
It's sad. It's sad. So we got a few minutes left. In those minutes, I like the audience to get to kind of understand you a lot better. And do me a favor, y'all. As I said, her link is in the description of the show. So please go follow her after this. But quick question: what was your turning point that made you convert to being more of a male advocate?
So I'm very transparent on my live videos on Instagram because I don't want anybody to think that I'm perfect. To be completely honest, it's a lot of things. For one, I had a great father. Before my father got sick, he very much had a lot of conversations with me that stuck with me. And it definitely was not what my mom was teaching me. So my mom was teaching me like what most Black women teach: get your career, men are sketchy, like you want to have something that's dependable, very much against the Black man, right? What really saved me is when I started to go out dating, because I started a lot later than most people. I started in my 20s, like dating and stuff like that. Once I started going out and dating, I had to hit my head a few times and realize what was out here. I started to realize that it's just very much a disconnect between Black men and Black women. Like it's a very large disconnect. And then from there, once I got into, because I'm about to be 31, so once I got into about my late 20s, I want to say 30, that's when I finally had just made the decision to just really renew my mind, think about those conversations that I had with my father, and really, really change my mindset. And from there, I started to realize that, wow, like Black men actually do want to marry Black women. Black men very much want to be with a Black woman. It's very much a division problem with Black women having messed up mentalities and Black men not feeling safe. And that is causing a disconnect between the two to really come together. Not to mention I talk about the modern day prostitution as well, which is going on, where women are looking for men to just give them money. They're looking at men as ATM machines, and that totally discredits what a man can actually bring to the table if you're just looking at him as an ATM machine. So I would say that my turning point would definitely have been like my late 20s. And that's when I kind of started to mature into the woman that I am today, on top of the lessons I learned from my father.
Yeah, so basically everything you're saying right now is daddy was key. He was key
Yes.
to allowing to coach you to see what's right and wrong. Having a strong father, y'all. Men, you know, I'm a male advocate myself, and I tell you, men, you're important. You know, you mean a lot. You mean everything to this world, because without men, the world wouldn't run. Period. Right. So like it'll just literally come to a halt, and it will. Everything you look, your lights is on right now because it's being maintained by you. So, you know, just keep doing what you're doing. Keep strong. Find yourself the right woman. This is just my thing. Find yourself a wife, because the right wife could inspire you to take over the world.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, stay away from the hood boogers. Leave them alone. You ain't gonna have nothing but negative outcomes, arguments, headaches, and usually stress is what leaves most men to an earlier grave than what they're supposed to.
Mm-hmm.
So, you know, getting your mind right, your mental right, you know, working out, get yourself together, men. And you know, it'll all fall in place. But Vida, thank you so much for joining. We were supposed to talk about Meet to Marry, but I just loved this topic with you. But do me a favor, y'all. Make sure you guys are tapped in. Learn so you can keep up with updates on Meet to Marry. We should be dropping this new season coming up later this month for sure. This time, we just working out the kinks with the edits, but we are dropping it later for sure this month. You guys are going to be in love with this show, and it's going to show you what love could really be between men and women, or at least a great attempt, right? Not saying everybody on the show is going to stay together, but the idea is to create a space for them to meet each other. So once again, Vida, thank you so much for joining the show today.
No problem. Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
I'm looking forward to doing this with you again. I'll probably, if I could, I'd love to get you on a panel. I don't know how you feel about panel shows.
Oh no, that would be fine. We could discuss that for sure.
Okay. So yeah, so we gotta discuss that. I'll see if we can do a panel, and I'll get you on with a group of people. It gets crazy over here, though. I'm not gonna lie to you.
I am so prepared.
Okay, we got a few feminists on this side. I ain't gonna hold you. You know what I'm saying? But thank you so much for joining the show. And do me a favor, on your way out the door, hit the like button. Make sure you subscribe. Say what up in the comment section on the replay. And y'all see much more Vida on this side, and y'all see much more of me on her side as well. But until then, I will see y'all on the next one. Peace.